I didn't know how to start. And I remember this one teacher. I remember her advice very clearly. I popped on during the Q&A and asked her a lot of questions about launching and how do I know what services to provide and what do I do and how do I talk to clients. And she just looked dead at the camera and said to me in a very Long Island accent, just launch. You're going to launch wrong, but I want you to do it anyway.
Live from the Never Too Late stage in sunny Sarasota, Florida, it's the Never Too Late Show. Tonight's guest proves it's never too late to reinvent yourself and do what you love. And now, helping women turn what now into watch this. Here's your host, TERESA Rowena.
Tonight's guest was crushing it in the tech world, engineering, hiring, the whole STEM scene, when she had a wait a minute moment. She realized brilliant people were getting passed over, not because they lacked talent, but because they didn't know how to tell their story. So she did what our show is all about. She reinvented herself. Now she's a career coach, a resume whisperer, and a spark reigniter. She helps others land the jobs they didn't think they could get. Please welcome to It's the Never Too Late Show, Irene Ryan.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been such a pleasure. It was great meeting you at the same conference we spoke at a couple months ago and being able to take a few of your improv classes too.
I know. It's only fair for the audience to know that you and I know each other through improv as well as you said, the conference. So it's just so much fun to have our relationship continue like this and to have you on the show. So let's jump in. I have some burning questions that I know that our audience, which are mainly women over 50, would probably want to know about you and about your advice. First off, I want to ask you about this. What about STEM? You were deep in STEM. What's that? That is science, tech, engineering, and math. For those of us with a liberal arts degree and feelings, could you explain what your day-to-day work was? What did you do in a day?
Back when I worked in industry, I worked at two different software companies. I worked at IBM for about 4 years, and then I worked at a startup called Palantir Technologies for about 12 years. And at IBM, I started off on a development team. Then I moved to quality assurance. Then I did performance testing. And then I found what I really loved to do, which was product support. So I did product support for over a decade. So that basically meant solving any problems that customers had with our software. And then for the end few years there, I also was a project manager.
Also, you got involved with hiring, didn't you?
I did. So I was the team lead for my product support engineering team back at Palantir. And for about 3, quite frankly, very eye-opening years, I was the hiring manager for that team as well. And the hiring manager was my side gig. I was a full-time team lead, hiring manager on the side, and I read thousands of resumes and interviewed hundreds of people. And most of the resumes that I read were, quite frankly, kind of bad. They didn't give me the information I needed to decide if I wanted to talk to that candidate or not. So most ended up on the reject pile. And I started to think, how many amazing people were there in that reject pile that just happened to have a bad resume? And I kept thinking, what could I do about it? And I was like, well, I can't email thousands. I can't interview thousands of people. That's not going to solve the root problem. So I decided to start giving workshops on how to write a great resume from a hiring manager perspective. And I had what I call my Elle Woods moment. So like Elle wakes up one day and she decides, I'm going to go to Harvard, right? I woke up one day and I said, I have no speaking experience. I think I'll speak at the largest women in tech conference in the world. Sounded like a great idea. So a colleague and I submitted a proposal. We got rejected the first year, but we got some great feedback. So we revamped it. And the following year, 2015, I submitted 2 different proposals. I figured like maybe I have a better chance. One of them would make it in. Both of them made it in. And I ended up speaking at the Grace Hopper Conference 8 different times in the US, London, and even Brisbane, Australia. I flew all the way over to Australia and spoke at that conference twice.
How
And
exciting.
yeah. And then I started doing recruiting events, doing resume workshops, and it just kept going from there, like snowballed. And then I started to get cold calls from people I didn't know, my hairstylist at the time, his boyfriend, my friend's apartment complex's manager and his fiance asking for resume help. And since I had this job, I would say, well, I could give you half an hour on the phone. A lot of people started to say, well, can we hire you for this? Can we pay you? We really need some help. And I kept saying, no, I don't have a business. There's really no way for me to do this. I don't really have the time. And then we went through COVID and I decided to start my own business doing resume writing, which is what I really loved.
That's awesome. I love that story. I do have one question. What happened in that moment of, I'm going to do this? I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start my own business. Was that something that had been brewing for a while, or did something happen and you went, up with which I will not put, I am out of here? Or how did that come about? Inquiring minds want to know.
It honestly had been brewing for a while, but I was very, very afraid to do it because my dad worked for Hewlett Packard for 28 years. I grew up, you work at a company for decades, right? And then you retire. No one in my close inner circle, maybe one person, but no one I really knew had started a business. I didn't know a lot of entrepreneurs. And what really helped was that I lived in New York City at the time, and New York had a lot of resources for entrepreneurs. So I started taking classes and meeting other entrepreneurs. And I will give full credit to the other entrepreneurs, mostly all women, whom I met through those classes, who really encouraged me to actually start the business, because they said, they're like, when you talk about resumes, your face lights up. We've never seen that happen with anyone else. You just get so excited.
You found your spark. You found what turned you on. Yeah. Hey, go girl.
Oh, yeah. And then I just thought, I will regret it if I don't try.
Did you ever have the thought that maybe you had missed your chance, that this was not the right time, or that you just doubted the circumstances?
I did not feel like I had missed my chance. Without the experience of being the hiring manager, when people ask me, how did you get into doing what you're doing? You write resumes and LinkedIn profiles, you're a career coach, you speak. I always say it happened by accident. I didn't plan for it. I went to school for computer engineering, computer software. I wanted to be in software for so many years until one day I didn't.
Did you have any fears? Were you fearless?
No, I was not fearless. I was not. I had some great coaches. I had a financial plan with my financial advisor, how much runway I had. So that was one of my fears, was not being able to pay my bills. So I saved up for a while to be able to do that. I surrounded myself with other entrepreneurs, which was amazing, and had a lot of encouragement from other people. I was very nervous to launch, but finally did. My first ever client, I think I was charging $200 at the time. I must have worked 20 hours on that resume. He got the best value of his life because I wanted my first one to be really, really good. The other thing that I did is I also tested my hypothesis. So I actually wrote 10 resumes for free before I even started the business, just to make sure that people were going to be happy with the output. So I did that as well. No, I would say I'm not fearless. I would say I experience fear every day. And I just learned that it's just a constant. I just have to show up and be brave every day and
That's right.
just try things. And sometimes I make mistakes and sometimes I do it right, but I learn more from the mistakes than I do when I do it.
It's a win-win situation. Even when things don't work, either they work and it's great, or if they don't work, you learn something. It's a win-win. There's no quote unquote failures. It's just you either win or you learn. Those are the options. I'm wondering too about leaving your corporate job, because you were in corporate for how long?
About 20 years, I'll say.
Yep. And I'm sure you developed a lot of friendships and camaraderie and teams. You mentioned being part of teams. Mm-hmm. Did you miss that? Were you concerned about going out on your own and being solo?
That's a great question, and I'll answer it really honestly. I was very lost for a few months because I didn't know what to do. Here's a funny story. It was during COVID when I made the transition. And in New York City, we were all stuck indoors all the time. And the only thing that got me up in the morning, I just developed a routine. I would watch Murder, She Wrote on public TV every day at 8 a.m. because I love Murder, She Wrote. And that was my new routine because I didn't have a job to wake up to, go to anymore. But I had Angela Lansbury.
Yeah. And she was waiting.
She was waiting. Every day at 8 a.m., I'd eat my oatmeal and I'd watch Murder, She Wrote. And then I would take business classes online and I would work on my business plan and I would think about what I wanted to do. So it was a transition for me. And I think it was made a little bit tougher by the fact that I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't see anybody.
Yeah.
But one of the things that also prompted was while I was figuring out my business, I signed up for yoga teacher training. And it's all on Zoom. And I got my 200-hour certification. I don't teach yoga, but it was actually one of the best trainings that I've ever taken for being a coach, especially in terms of the concept of holding space for other people.
Mm-hmm. I can get that.
So, yeah. So it was, I'll be honest, it was a rough transition, but it also worked out really well.
What would you say to someone that's a big concern of theirs right now? What coaching or advice or recommendations do you have for someone that might be facing that?
For someone facing any sort of transition or specifically?
Transitioning from being corporate or something or starting their own business, going from working with people to working alone. You were caught up with COVID, so you were very limited. But looking back on it, knowing what you know today, had times been normal, what would you have advised yourself to do, or what would you have done that you think would have made a difference for you?
A couple of things I would have done. I would have joined a business coaching community. I think taking the classes was a good idea. That's number one. I would have joined a business coaching community, not just to have a coach, but to be around other entrepreneurs. And I'm in one now, and it's fantastic. And I recommend it to everybody. And then another thing, I think, to ease the transition of working in an office. At that point, everyone was in the office. Not a lot of folks were remote. But if you're used to being in an office with a team and now you're remote and by yourself, it can feel isolating.
Yes.
And what I would recommend is joining a co-working space. Honestly.
Yeah.
I did that for a little bit and that was really helpful, just to be around other people.
Yes.
And to have somewhere to go every day. That's
a great tip, to join one of these co-working places, offices where you go to and other people are there. That's really a good idea. So you have that feeling. You could even set your own schedule and go in if you wanted to and actually create your own job and hours if you like that kind of structure. It's not like it's not available to you anymore. You can create your own, right?
Yep. And if a co-working space is not around you or it's not in the budget, a library will work.
Oh, that's great too. That's awesome. Yeah, because a lot of libraries have spaces that you can schedule by the hour. And if you don't have that kind of space, you can always just be at a table there.
Yep.
That's a really good advice for people who might be concerned about how to make that transition. Of course, there's always the online option, because even if you're somewhere rather remote or in a small town, you can always go online. There's such a great, vast world out there that's available to us via the internet. We can always find our people who are into what we're into. They're out there and they're looking for us. They are.
And I have a couple accountability entrepreneur friends as well. We will hop on Zoom and say hi and then tell each other what we're working on. And then we actually go off camera and silent. And I find that to also be really motivating, because it's nice to just work with other people versus working on my own.
That's awesome. But let me ask you this. A lot of the women that I talk to over 50, because this is my passion about helping people find their spark, like you did with resumes. So whatever your spark is, let's help people find that, particularly women. And one of the things I hear often is people say, I just don't know what I want anymore. I don't have a spark. I'm just completely blank. But they want to feel lit up again. They want to find something that has them go, oh yeah, but They just don't know what it is. What would you recommend for someone like that?
That is an awesome question. And I actually ask, before I work with clients, I ask them a few questions so I can get to know them and we can hit the ground running during our first Zoom call together. One of the questions that I like to ask folks to answer is, what do you like doing? What do you not like doing? And what do you do when you procrastinate? I really like, what do you do when you procrastinate? Because that'll actually give you a lot of information.
Your procrastination might be your pacifier.
Oh, what is my procrastination?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watch poker videos on YouTube.
That's right, because you're a poker player too, right?
Yes, I wouldn't say I'm good, but I really do enjoy it. And I have a group of friends I play with on Friday nights. And then I actually moonlight as a poker dealer.
Fabulous. There's a whole other segment in our listening audience, our viewing audience, about people who are in different stages of their life, women who are looking for what lights them up, people who retire thinking, oh, I'm going to sit around and do nothing. Do you know 40-something% of retirees report that they are unhappy with their lives?
Really?
And yes, numbers are astounding. And so this whole thought that, boy, when I retire, then I'm going to live it up, not so much, because there's just so much. And then at some point, people want to feel like they're making a difference, that they're lit up, they're fired up about something. It's not just about doing nothing.
Many of my clients, I think, feel a lot of pressure to make the perfect next decision, to find the perfect next step, the perfect next job. They want everything to be perfect. And it doesn't have to be. You just have to take your best estimate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're not sure what you want to do. Figure out a direction and go for it as you learn about companies and different roles. And if you get a job and it's not exactly what you want, that is okay because you can switch.
Yeah.
So I hope it helps folks. I am definitely a perfectionist. I was once described very accurately by a former coach of mine as type A++. It's very hard to let go of that perfectionism. I want everything to be incredible, but really it just has to be done.
Yeah. One of the sayings that I love is perfection is the enemy of completion. Does perfection even exist? We're chasing a ghost if we're looking for perfection. Just do it and then correct if you need to. I was just going to say, I think that holds back a lot of people, women particularly. Am I making the right choice? What if I do this and it's wrong, whatever that is? I don't get the intended result, or I'm not happy, or I don't make the money, or I can't get clients, or whatever it is, all these fears that come into play that keep women frozen and a lack of action because of that fear. They just stay stuck and miserable. So that, I think, is a big issue. Do you run into that with your coaching clients?
I run into it with myself.
Yeah.
And I also know that making a decision to do nothing is still making a decision.
Yep.
Even a 1% improvement over time will get you much further down the road. It's part of, now we can order things online and get them delivered that day or the next day. We can Google anything that we're curious about. We don't have to go to a library and look it up in a reference book. We're used to having things now, right? And some things just take time.
It's so true. I'd like to think about it like driving down the road in the dark with just your headlights. You can only see how far your headlights beam goes to. But as you move, you see more, you see more, you see more. So I think that is the thing. You just can't just sit there and wonder what's on the other side of the headlights. You have to move to be able to see what's next. Is there something that you can think of or know of or that has helped you with taking that first step, taking that action step?
Two thoughts come to mind. One is get yourself a hype person.
Yeah.
It could be a friend, it could be a coach, a fellow entrepreneur. Get yourself a hype person. And I've actually thought, Teresa, because I know a lot of speakers, and it can be a lot of times when you're doing a speech, A lot of times when I do workshops, and I learned this in the yoga training, people have what my yoga teachers called yoga face, where they're just,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and they're totally fine. They're absolutely fine. They're loving the class. They're into it. They just are not smiling because they're focused. And I've thought about offering a side hustle sort of service where I will show up to speakers, keynotes, and workshops and be your hype person, sit in the front row. And during the entire time you're on stage, I'm just going to be like this.
Yay. Yeah.
Just to give you encouragement. So when I say get a hype person, and for anybody watching or listening, if you need a hype person, contact me. I'll happily hype you up. Okay. Because that's helped me so much. I've had a great friend who is so enthusiastic and so encouraging. And it means so much to me that she does that. Everything I share with her, she's, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's wonderful. And sometimes you just need to hear that.
Amen.
I think that comes back to one of the tips I shared earlier was that I firmly believe, and I firmly believe this so much that I took a book course and I'm writing a book about this around the concept that you are more awesome than you think you are. Your resume doesn't match everything that you bring to the table. It probably doesn't right now. We remember our mistakes and our failures more than we remember our own successes.
So true. I agree with you, which leads me to another question, and it's about the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. One place that they show up is in the resume. But when people start rebuilding your story, you now help people tell powerful career stories. But how did you rewrite your own when you were still in the messy middle?
Whenever I do a resume or a LinkedIn or career workshop, I like to state to everyone there that all of that, your resume, LinkedIn, everything, your interview, it's just marketing.
Yep.
It's marketing you. And because you are writing your story, you get to decide how to market yourself. So if there's things that you don't want to talk about or you don't want on there, you don't have to put them on there.
Yeah,
you get to decide what you want to focus on and what you want other people to focus on. It has a lot to do, obviously, with the internal dialogue that's going on, the stories that we tell ourselves.
Totally.
And if you don't like the story that you're telling yourself, you actually have the power to rewrite it.
How many resumes would you say that you've actually seen over your career?
I'm definitely in the 4 figures, maybe almost 5 by now.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you've seen a lot of women's resumes, I assume?
Yes, I definitely. Yes, over all of the women in tech conferences I've been to, and especially now I work with a lot of women in STEM and in other fields, and a lot of women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s coming back into the workforce. So, yes.
Great. So let me ask you this. What do you see missing? What do you see that women do wrong on their resumes, especially in this point of if they're wanting to make a pivot or a change of some sort? But just in general, what do you see women doing that undermines themselves?
One thing that I see a lot is lack of taking ownership and not fully embracing everything that they've done, every contribution that they've made. Sometimes it's the use of passive words, like passive verbs, instead of using I led, I managed, I developed, I created, I spearheaded. I see verbs like I participated in, I helped with, I was responsible for, like I assisted with, right? I don't see an ownership.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I do this. I think a lot of folks we're taught to downplay our accomplishments. And I get this question a lot, and I don't feel comfortable bragging.
Yes.
Especially for women. I don't feel comfortable bragging.
Yes.
And I said, well, what if it's not bragging? What if it's just communicating? Because the company has this job rec that they've posted because they have a problem that they need solved and they're looking for someone to solve it. And your job as a job applicant is to say, I am the best person to solve your problem. But if you're not clear and concise and communicate well all of the problems that you solve, you can't have that meet cute. because you're looking for the company and they're looking for you, but you can't find each other unless you're really raw and honest about everything that you can do.
It's reframing, right?
It is.
It is. Women are weak in this area. We often step back, and as you say, we've been told, oh gosh, about don't brag. It's just all that goes with being female in the Western culture about who we are. If you assert yourself, you're being a witch with a capital B. There's all of these things that prevent us from feeling safe in terms of speaking for ourselves. And I think, once again, this gets back to having that hype person or a professional such as yourself who can help people rewrite their resume in an accurate way that's not being filtered through all of the past, the stories, the things we were raised with, so that we can actually present who we really are.
Two thoughts that come to mind on that. And one of the things that I like to do with my clients that I sometimes don't see a lot of other resume writers do is we spend hours on Zoom together talking through their whole career. It's a way to create confidence. They feel more confident in themselves. We find these golden nuggets that they had previously forgotten about or weren't on there, but we're going to add. They'll usually have like aha moments in between sessions where they remember something else, and they'll email me and say, oh, we have to talk about this at our next session, or I just remembered something that I did. And I think it's really important, if you don't have a coach, is to talk things out. I think that really helps. There's something that happens when we try to go directly from our head to paper, but when we talk something out, that's where the magic is, when we have a conversation. The second thing that pops to mind in terms of a statistic, and one of my favorite ones to share, is that LinkedIn did a study, and 40% of hiring managers consider volunteer work to be equivalent to paid work experience. And I sometimes think volunteer work is harder because for volunteers, there's no consequence to not showing up, right? There's no risk of losing your job because it's not a job, it's volunteer. And I've had a lot of my clients in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who have taken time off to care for a family member or raise children. Their volunteering experience is incredible. They've fundraised, they've organized block parties for 400 people, they've mobilized hundreds of people for walk. It's just absolutely amazing. And a lot of times we discount that.
Totally. And that leads to another question I have. With all that you've done working with women, what, as a coach, or just as another woman, what do you wish more women 50 and older understood about their real value, not just at work, but in the world?
So this is something that I struggle with as well, right? Like when I did my speaker training and the book training, there's this concept that who are you really writing the speech for? Who are you really writing the book for? And what you're really doing is you're not just there to serve your audience, but you're also going through a transformation yourself and writing it for you. So the concept of that you're more awesome than you think you are, it's very easy for me to see in someone else and to see in my clients, but something that is difficult for me to see in myself. I actually need other people to help me with that.
Don't we all? There's some things we just don't know about ourselves. We have to rely on others. We don't know what color our own eyes are. Somebody has to tell us that. There's just some things we cannot know about ourselves without the input of others. This has been really a lot of fun. I know we're going to need to end here, darn it, because I could keep going. I love talking about this. I love empowering women. And I'm also loving fun, and you're my improv girlfriend. I have some rapid fire questions for you that are just fun, okay? You ready?
Okay.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Last thing that made you laugh out loud?
My boyfriend.
If your life were a movie, what would it be titled?
This is for my siblings. It's me, Anne.
Oh, great. I love that. Oh, what's something you believed at 30 that you don't believe now?
I did not believe that I would ever start my own business.
Okay. And we know that's not true. Here we go. If you could have dinner with one person, living or not, who would it be?
Angela Lansbury.
Yes, we return to Angela. Then the final question is, tell us your favorite joke or a joke that always makes you laugh. It could be a riddle or a whatever, something that always makes you smile.
Sure. And this is one I actually learned from Taylor Swift.
Oh, cool.
On an interview. I saw her do an interview. She told this joke and I thought, that's a great joke. I'm going to remember that. And I've told it ever since. What did the ocean say to the beach?
Tell me.
Nothing. It just waved.
That's great. Well, Anne, thank you so much for being with us today. It's just been a great pleasure. And if people want to know how to get in touch with you, they'll be able to get all of the details in the notes below. And you're just a wonderful human being, and I love what you're doing to advance women in the world. There's a special place in heaven for people like you. And thank you for being here with us today.
TERESA, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm just delighted that you invited me on your show.
I hope to have you back.
Yes, that was the goal. To be so good, I got invited back.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thanks for spending time with us on It's the Never Too Late Show. Like, subscribe, and share the spark. Because reinvention's more fun with friends. Not sure what your spark is? Take the quiz at itsthennevertoolateshow.com. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and we'll catch you later. Later.